So it is time for Overlooked Stocks. That's the subject. I'm joined by George Tsilis, Senior Markets Correspondent, to get us across this one and what you're seeing out there, George.
Well, one of the things, first off, I noticed about Applied Digital, Sam, is irrespective of the market move we saw on Friday, Applied Digital actually traded higher. So that's quite meaningful. It gives you an idea that there's some, I suggest maybe some financial and economic reasons why it was higher, and actually trading slightly higher today is sort of a follow through from last week. But this is an interesting company in the context of AI and data centers, because it started off as really a crypto mining hosting company. And one of the things we've noticed too in this market is some of the traditional crypto mining companies, which have idle GPU capacity that they can certainly utilize to increase the yield on with artificial intelligence and data center transformations. Applied Digital is one of these names across the board, alongside like Riot Platform, Mara, Hive Technologies, another symbol HIVE. That's very similar in nature, going from crypto mining and then adding on to that, graphics rendering, large language learning modeling, and of course language processing for artificial intelligence. And you mentioned the deal that this company has with CRWV. In fact, now it's $11 billion. Just going back a couple of quarters ago, it was around $7 billion. And this is important because if you look at the company's top line sales as posted when they reported earnings just a few trading days back, because we had the weekend, of course, to consider, they did increase their sales by 85% to 64 million, besting the estimates of 45 million. And then the other thing is they got to a loss of 3 cents a share, which was significantly better than the estimated 15 cents a loss per share. And then also, if you look at the guidance the company provided for the remainder of the year, this is also important because I went and looked at the estimated EPS prior to the announcement for earnings. They were expected to lose 50 cents this year. Now it's gone down to 30 cents, and next year the estimated losses, which were around 30 cents, are down to 12 cents. And so what my point is that the company is starting to get closer towards break even. And again, that sort of suggests there's some rationale behind the powerful move the stock has made. In particular, if you look at the price action in the last year, higher by 400%. Year to date, it's up 350%. And the other thing is sales estimated to be around 290 million this year, compared to trailing sales at around 173 million, and expected to get close to 600 million next year. So we're talking about sales which are nearly doubling going forward, which is, again, cumulatively a little bit faster than even last quarter's year-over-year sales growth of 85%.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it sort of makes sense, these companies in the business of sort of Bitcoin mining that have, the high efficiency facilities to sort of move into something like this when you're talking about the infrastructure behind data centers, AI, et cetera. And you mentioned, who it sort of competes with, the Irons of the world, the CleanSparks. I mean, if you look at the, 350% or so rally, as we mentioned, year to date, if I look at Iron, it's also up about 550% year to date as well. And CleanSpark, which is a company that I spoke to recently, also up year to date 118%. So where does it sort of stack up in the grand scheme of things amongst these sort of competitors, do you think? And just, what do you think of just the tailwind that all these businesses have been getting?
Well, I'm glad you brought up those other competitors. Like I mentioned, Riot, Mara, also Hive Technologies, the other one's Iron. All of them are in the same sort of category, generally speaking. They're not exactly the same. But effectively, all these Bitcoin mining and crypto mining facilities already use tremendous numbers of GPUs. So they're already set up with the same kind of infrastructure, technology infrastructure that is needed for high scale processing, or high demand processing, or hyperscale processing, however you want to look at it. So making that transition to, of course, lease out the unutilized space to GPU, the GPU technologies for artificial intelligence makes sense, because they can increase the economic yield on existing space that may not necessarily be utilized for crypto mining. And they can make the switch quite rapidly based upon the higher demand. So it almost as if they're almost like producing their own electricity. I'm not speaking directly like they are, but indirectly they can increase the on-demand needs for computing power based on technology downstream demand. And I think that's really important, and why we're seeing a lot of these names move higher. Now, in context of the whole group, it's very complicated. because first off, if you just look at Applied Digital, I say the CRWV deal is big because just think about the long-term deal of $11 billion compared to last year's sales of 170 or so million, roughly speaking. So that's a tremendous increase in sales growth estimated. All else equal, you have to keep in mind that we have to say if this is a real contractual obligation that is set in stone and there's no contractual cancellation clauses within it. But the company's getting closer to profitability, and that's also very important in the context of any trend in any stock. But at any point in time, these are high beta names, Applied Digital and some of the others you mentioned, which again can create some challenges for longer term investors because they can be subject to whipsaw events, high volatility events. So that's just something to keep in mind. But nonetheless, what you want to see is revenue growth, which the company has, and also at the very least getting closer towards adjusted profitability, which is the case for Applied Digital. I can't say for every other competitor, though, is the same.
Okay. A good look at the space there. Applied Digital sitting up over 2% in trade today. Thank you so much, as always, George Tsilis.